itself cannot do any damage because it's completely inactive. It can't multiply, it can't do anything. If a person has a hypersensitivity to it, that's why they ask you all those questions. If you have a hypersensitivity to it, you could have an immune response against it, and that could cause discomfort, but the vaccine itself isn't going to cause anything. So that's why it says here, absent, right? Risk to immunocompromised recipient, none. Risk of mutation to virulence, none. It's completely safe. However, the disadvantages are many because it doesn't have the advantages of the attenuated. What about the length of protection? Short term, yeah, shorter term protection. And sometimes they have to learn that the hard way. Yeah, so boosters are needed. So whenever there's a whooping cough outbreak, everyone's told, you go get your boosters so that you protect any little infants that you might be around, because infants are too young to get the whooping cough vaccine, and so they're always going to be susceptible. Newborn babies are always going to be susceptible to whooping cough. They learned the hard way about the waning immunity of a newer whooping cough vaccine that was safer because it was a subunit vaccine as opposed to a whole bacteria vaccine, which was the older whooping cough vaccine. But this newer one, even though it's safer, had shorter term protection, and so even people who had been vaccinated got whooping cough, but a much milder case usually. So definitely shorter term immunity. Mainly it only is going to provide the humoral immunity, the IgGs only, not the cell-mediated, because it's just a little, it's a little particle of something, right? Humoral protection only, and so that's not going to be as effective. So it may not, be as effective, let alone not as high magnitude. It's always injectable. These are always injectable, which can be a disadvantage for developing countries, right? As opposed to oral. So they are trying to develop edible vaccines where they can, deliver it in developing countries as like a little banana, mush or something to, yeah. For babies, they just, yeah, there is actually a banana that's got that they're developing with a vaccine. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, multiple doses, that would be boosters, shorter term. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't promote a very strong response. So usually that's what this adjuvant is, need for adjuvant. So some of the components of an inactive vaccine don't really stimulate much as far as an immune response. An immune response in a lot of people, or that might need other. So that's called a vaccine failure, and you can never assume that the vaccine is going to confer immunity to everyone vaccinated. And that's why the herd immunity the coverage has to be so high, because there's always going to be some percent of people who are vaccinated where the vaccine doesn't have the, effect of protecting them. And so those are also got to be counted in the susceptible people, or the people who were vaccinated but the vaccine didn't confer immunity for whatever reason. So especially if it's an inactive vaccine, it's so it may, less than 100%, Okay. So those are the types of vaccines. So polio is nearly eradicated. Working on it. Almost eradicated. Just Pakistan and Afghanistan left. But because of civil unrest and cultural upheaval, things noticeable, yeah. Healthcare providers not being able to get to places where it's needed. So there's been some really interesting studies lately, like long-term studies of the effects of vaccination, and the most recent was HPV is reducing cervical cancer or HPV infections. But yeah, lots of big successes. The meningitis success is really pretty stunning. Not in Africa, that's a pretty cool one. But there's a lot of diseases where they're developing new vaccines trying to prevent. So if you want to check out a really interesting organization, this PATH, this is local. Have you guys heard of this PATH organization? It's a nonprofit research institute that's all about global health, and this is about that vaccine, the meningitis vaccine.
Bill Gates.
Yep, it's Bill Gates, yep, money, yep. And they're also developing one for Japanese encephalitis, which I guess causes
There's
a lot of...
already a vaccine for that. It's expensive. It's like $600.
Well, I think they're trying to make a, well, maybe there is, but they're trying to make one that's cheaper.
Yeah,
some-
$600 is a lot of money.
Yeah, they're trying to make one that's cheaper, or in the case of meningitis, there already was one, but it wasn't for the strains in Africa. So we've had a vaccine in America for the meningitis for over a decade, but they needed to develop a new one for Africa because the strains are different.
So what's the difference between meningitis and encephalitis?
Well, meningococcal is a bacteria that actually causes, meningitis is the cerebral spinal fluid, encephalitis is the brain.
So it's just the same thing. It's just where it's in the body.
I think it's where it spreads to.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's bacterial. The Neisseria meningitis is a specific bacteria. You can get meningitis that's caused by a virus as well, but this one is bacterial. So lots of vaccine research you can read, on the blog, but also other public health interventions. Oh, wow, brand new Center for Vaccine Innovation and Access. Cool. So yeah, lots of, this is kind of a, I don't know, I've donated to this before. It's kind of a cool thing.